Hey guys, it's Russell back, and on today's video I'm going to show you how to recharge the AC system on this Volkswagen Jetta. The procedures that I'm going to show you will work for any car, whether it's 134A or R12. It's not a hard job. You do need a couple of specialized tools. I'm going to show you how and take the mystery out of it. First thing you're going to want is to get you a good set of charging gauges. I will put these put this link in Amazon where I got this. Yellow Jacket is a very good brand. Professionals use this all the time. The reason that I am recharging this AC is because I had to replace one of my cooling fans because it broke. Well, in order to get the new fan in, all right, I had to disconnect the AC line right here, and consequently lost all the refrigerant. So the basic set of gauges, this is going to work with, as you can see, R22, 410A, or 404A. Now the 134A you see is not listed on there, nor is R12. If you have a car that uses R12, you can use these that come with it, standard fitting. For 134A, I'm going to put these adapters on. 134A uses a completely different kind of connection. First thing you want to do is you want to find where your gauges will hook up. In the Volkswagen, there are two connectors. You're going to see a large line, which is a large diameter line. That is the low pressure. A lot of times it's marked blue. Now, ironically, the large line has the small fitting and the small line has the large fitting. It doesn't matter. The large line is the low side and the small line is the high pressure side. Do not get them mixed up. Now, on the 134A system, you can't really connect them differently, but you want to make sure that you just use caution, because you could get the line swapped. The blue always goes to the low pressure side and the red to the high pressure side. So let me go ahead and get these on here and get the gauges hooked up. Alright, I've got both of my lines hooked up to the appropriate AC lines in the car. I've got my gauges right here. I've got the valves closed on both sides. Okay, I'm going to make sure these are snug. Now this line right here goes down to a vacuum pump. Now we're going to assume that you've done whatever work you've done to your AC and you've replaced whatever parts, or replaced your condenser, your evaporator, your accumulator, your dryer, whatever. Everything's all buttoned back up and sealed. So before you put any refrigerant in here at all, you must pull a vacuum on the system. And the reason for that is there's moisture in air. Air and an AC system are arch enemies. So what you have to do is you have to vacuum the air out. This is a professional vacuum pump that they use for houses or industrial compressors or car AC systems. Any AC system, you're going to need to do that. So this happens to be, this is a Robin Air brand. Anyway, we won't go into this. We will go ahead and turn the vacuum on. We'll open it. Okay. And then we'll open the valves all the way. Okay. Now you see that the gauges have gone all the way into negative pressure on both sides. All right, and we're just going to let this run for a while. The proper way to do this would be to have a micron gauge somewhere in line here to see how many microns it's pulling. We don't have one. Ideally, you'd want to pull about a 500 micron, but we're just going to let this run. Probably it's what, 3, and we'll let it run about 15 minutes. And we'll come back and I'll show you what to do next. Alright, so I let the vacuum pump run for about 28 minutes and I shut the valves off. And what we're going to do is we're going to see if we have a leak in the system, and the way that we'll see that is the vacuum will slowly rise if we do have a leak. So I'm going to let this sit here for probably about 10 minutes. Now another way that you can do that is you can put some nitrogen in there, or you could put a little bit of refrigerant and see what happens. But I find that if it holds a vacuum after about 30 minutes, then it's pretty much leak free. So we'll come back and show you what it looks like. Alright, so I have had this sitting here for more than an hour and it has absolutely lost no vacuum at all, which we can be 99.9% sure there is no leakage. So now it's time to go ahead and hook up our 134A cylinder, and I'll show you how to do that next. Alright, so what I have here, I normally have an AC charging scale which is a little bit larger than this, but it failed. So I went on Amazon and found this postal scale. It'll read up to, I believe, 270 pounds or so. So that's what we're going to use. You want something that will register in ounces, tenths of an ounce. So I'm going to put this is a 35-pound cylinder of 134A, and I'm going to remove the charging line from the vacuum pump, and I'm going to attach it to the cylinder here. Now I have to use an adapter, and you will too if you have a cylinder like this, because the threads are different on the cylinder itself. But it's a ASE thread. It's a very common adapter. In fact, I'll put a link in Amazon. Alright, so I'm going to let this settle for just a second, and I'm going to do my tare weight. I'm going to zero it out so it shows 0 pounds and 0 ounces. Now the Volkswagen manual states that this needs to be filled with 28.2 ounces plus or minus 1.8 ounces. Anytime I've done this, I've put exactly 28.2 ounces and I get about 27.5, 28 degrees out of the vent, which is what I'm looking for. Alright, so I've got it zeroed out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the tap at the top here, and I've still got my hose in the off position, and I'm going to turn the ball valve here. So now what I've done is I have filled the line up to the top of the entire line. Let me just pull this back a little if I can. The entire line has refrigerant in it now. Okay, so I want to make sure, I'm going to zero this out again. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to remove any possibility of there being air in here, so I'm going to loosen this just a little till it hisses. Okay, that will push any air that's out. It shouldn't be any air in there. It should be nothing but a vacuum. Alright, so the next step is I'm going to turn both of these knobs, which will allow the refrigerant to be drawn into the system. I want to make sure one more time this is zeroed out. I'm not going to touch that again, and here we go. Now, right now we're charging as a gas. Okay, I'm going to turn the knob on the high side off. I'm going to keep the knob on the low side engaged. And we've put in, looks like 4.3 ounces. We need 28.2. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and crank the car up. I'm going to engage the compressor. Hopefully it will engage. It may not, because there's a low pressure switch that protects the compressor itself. And it may not. I may have to actually jump that, but we'll see. All right, so the compressor just kicked on. It's drawing refrigerant into the system, and I'm watching the gauge to make sure that we don't go over. We're looking at the pressure going up, so I'm going to let it stabilize for just a second. So I put in 15.8. I'm going to go ahead and add more. So it's 16. Okay, the vapor line here is nice and cold. Looking at our pressures. Okay, so 1 pound, 2.7 ounces is 18.7, so we need 10 more ounces. So we need to get to where that says 28.2, or equivalent to it. Okay. So at 22.8 pounds. And I'll just let it just run for just a minute to stabilize. Add it just a little bit at a time. Alright, so we've got almost 26 ounces. see the condensation. This is ice cold, which is good. Let's go inside and see what our temperature is looking like. All right, so I have it on recirculate fan speed 1. Okay, so right now it's about 50 degrees. So we put in 1 pound, about 1 pound 10 ounces, which is 26 ounces. So I need to get that to 1 pound 12.2. Right, 1 pound 12. Look at our pressures. The low side is running about, let's see, that's 50, 48, 47, about 46, and high side's about 200. The vapor line got a really good sweat going on. It's good. We're gonna let it put 2.2 ounces in more. Okay. So 1 pound, 12.4 ounces. It's 28.4 ounces, and we're allowed 28.2 plus or minus 1.8. So we're just going to let this run for a little while and stabilize. See, it's dropping good. I'm going to turn this up a little more. All right, so I'm gonna let this run just a little while and come back and show you guys what the end temperature result is. All right, guys, so I've been letting the car sit here for, I don't know, about 10 minutes. And you can see that we're down to about 29.5 degrees out of the vent. Now, I put in the exact amount, actually 0.2 ounces more than the ideal amount. There may be a little bit of scale difference, but for all practical purposes, put in the exact amount, which means the evaporator, if you look at the pressure and temperature chart, the evaporator's running about in the 20s. So I like cold air. It's very humid here in Georgia, and I can't stand it if it's above 40 degrees coming out of the vent. So I've had this car for 21 years and it has always been this cold. Volkswagens are known for over-engineering their air conditioning systems. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and turn the AC off. I'm going to go ahead and let the vent or the evaporator dry out a little while. But anyway, guys, I hope this was helpful. This is not a hard job. You do need to have some safety precautions. If nothing else, you can see how the procedure is applied if you do take your car someplace else, how it's done. The absolute best way to ensure you have the correct amount of refrigerant is by weighing the charge in an empty system. You can go by the pressure and temperature chart and the PSI on the gauge if you're not sure, if you're just topping it off, but if I did that, I probably would end up having a little more in there. So anyway, guys, if this was helpful, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Ring that or hit that little icon bell that's next to the subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next video.